The days that seem ordinary to men are often the very days upon which eternity pivots, and October 7, though cloaked in the garments of a Tuesday, bears within it a hidden gravity that only the discerning heart will sense. For time, though it moves with the quiet patience of a river, is not without its chosen bends where destinies are decided and souls are sifted. There is a deep and solemn music beneath this date, as if creation itself holds its breath, waiting to see whether men will awaken or remain asleep beneath the illusion of routine. The world has grown accustomed to the comfort of sameness, to the rhythm of clocks, the hum of engines, and the flickering of screens, but beyond these familiar echoes, a divine appointment stirs. October 7 is not merely a mark on the calendar. It is an intersection between heaven's mercy and man's response. The air itself carries a weight that is invisible to the careless, but unmistakable to the soul that listens. It is as though the very architecture of time has conspired to offer one more invitation, one more turning point, one more hour of grace before the door closes upon an age that has mistaken noise for wisdom and progress for peace. On such a day, the unseen becomes the truest reality. The plans of nations and the desires of men seem so solid, yet they are as mist before the dawn. For behind them, something ancient and unyielding stirs, a reminder that no empire, no technology, no human cleverness can silence the voice that speaks through conscience and circumstance alike. October 7 stands as a quiet trumpet call, summoning not soldiers but souls, not to war, but to awakening. Its magnitude is not in the spectacle of events, but in the turning of hearts, the subtle shift of understanding when men realize that life is not measured by what they build, but by what they become. There is something being written today, not on paper but upon the living pages of eternity. Some will pass through it unaware, brushing past the sacred as though it were ordinary, while others will pause, sense the stillness, and recognize the hand of the eternal moving gently yet decisively. Such moments are never announced by thunder. They arrive softly, as a whisper in the conscience or a restlessness in the heart. It is the kind of day when the unseen doors begin to move. Doors of opportunity, of repentance, of revelation. Many will see nothing unusual in the sun's rise or in the day's passing hours. They will drink their coffee, answer their messages, and call it just another Tuesday. But there are those who will feel something different, a drawing, a stirring, as if the day itself is alive with expectation. For it is. The hand that shaped galaxies and holds the breath of every living soul is poised over this day. It has woven meaning into its hours, meaning that can only be discovered by the humble, the attentive, the ones willing to see beyond the visible. There is a reckoning of priorities unfolding, what man has worshipped, what he has trusted, what he has ignored. The illusion of control is thin, and October 7 comes as a divine reminder that all that is not rooted in truth will tremble. Yet it is not a day of fear, but of mercy. For even in the trembling, there is a tender voice saying, "Wake up." This is the kindness of the eternal, to shake men gently before the storm. Each sunrise is a gift. But some sunrises are summonses, and this one carries a summons indeed. Those who hear it will find that their hearts burn within them, not with anxiety but with a strange, solemn hope. Something greater than fear begins to grow. A sense that all the chaos and confusion of the present age are not meaningless, but part of a larger story being written by unseen hands. And perhaps, as the day unfolds, the events of the world, political, financial, natural, will seem to align in a way that exposes how fragile human confidence truly is. Men may say it is coincidence, but those who know the language of heaven will recognize coordination, not chance. The hour has been chosen for awakening. The question is not whether the day is great, but whether the heart is ready. There is a kind of spiritual weather that precedes every great change. A hush before the transformation, a quiet before revelation. That is the climate of October 7. In its stillness, heaven leans close, and the soul that listens will understand what history cannot teach. It is a moment that divides the sleepers from the seekers, the proud from the pure, the distracted from the devoted. For on this day, every man's allegiance is tested, not by force, but by truth? Will he follow the noise of the world, or the whisper of eternity? Will he see the temporal or sense the eternal? The day offers a mirror, and in it, humanity sees what it has become: brilliant but barren, connected yet alone, rich in knowledge but poor in wisdom. And in that mirror, some will turn away, unwilling to face what they have lost. But others will bow, their hearts breaking open in the light of reality, and they will find that mercy still lingers. There is still time, though the sands are thin, to choose differently, to love more deeply, to believe more wholly. That is the hidden greatness of this day. It does not announce itself in fireworks or fanfare, but in the quiet return of meaning. It is as though the eternal has marked this Tuesday with invisible ink, writing over the common with the call to the uncommon. The question is, who will read it? For those who do, this day will not pass as others have. They will remember it as the moment when something shifted inside them, when the clamor of the world grew dim and the whisper of purpose grew clear. And in the years to come, when others speak of changes in history or turns of fortune, they will know that the true change began not in the corridors of power, but in the secret chambers of the heart. The greatness of October 7 is not in what happens to the world, but in what happens within the soul that finally awakens to its eternal calling. A single day in divine timing outweighs centuries of human planning, and those who discern its meaning become participants, not spectators, in the turning of ages. There are days upon the earth when the veil between heaven and the world grows thin, when time itself seems to pause and breathe, awaiting the decisions of men. Such days are rare, and yet they are often hidden in simplicity, wrapped in the cloth of routine, so that only the eyes of faith can recognize their weight. October 7 is such a day when the eternal writes quietly upon the scroll of human history, unseen by most, but known deeply by those who feel the tremor of destiny beneath their feet. To the hurried and the distracted, it will appear as any other Tuesday, marked by the usual rhythm of work, laughter, and weariness. But to the awakened, it will hum with invisible music, a low and steady note that calls the soul to attention. For divine timing does not operate by human calendars or governments or economic forecasts. It operates by truth, by purpose, and by the silent weaving of all things toward an appointed moment of revelation. Man, in his pride, imagines that he governs time, that he measures it, controls it, and fills it as he pleases. But he forgets that time was created before him, and that it bends not to his will, but to the will of the one who holds eternity in his hands. 1,000 years of human ambition can crumble in an instant of divine intervention. One breath of divine intent can undo empires, redirect nations, or awaken souls from centuries of slumber. Such is the mystery of a day chosen by the eternal. It is not the length of time that makes it great, but the weight of purpose that fills its hours. When heaven ordains a day, it becomes a fulcrum upon which ages pivot. The past is gathered, the present is illuminated, and the future begins to unfold like a scroll. And those who perceive this are no longer mere bystanders to history. They become participants in it, voices in the divine symphony, instruments through which eternity speaks into time. Most of the world will never recognize such moments. Men are busy building their towers, chasing their profits, securing their comfort. They do not notice the subtle shifts in the air, the gathering silence before revelation. But the soul that lives in stillness, that listens, that watches, will sense it. Something moves beneath the surface, something ancient, something holy, and it calls, not to the intellect but to the spirit. It whispers that this day, though cloaked in ordinariness, carries the pulse of heaven. It asks, will you see it? Will you step into it? For every divine moment invites a human response, and that response determines whether a life becomes merely a sequence of hours or a story written in eternal ink. The contrast between divine timing and human planning is vast. Humanity organizes itself by schedules, forecasts, and strategies, convinced that control is the same as wisdom. Yet all the while, the eternal sits above time, orchestrating what men call coincidence into a perfect harmony of purpose. What looks like delay is preparation. What feels like silence is orchestration. And what seems like chaos is often the necessary shaking that awakens sleepers to reality. When a divine day comes, it exposes how fragile our blueprints truly are. It humbles the arrogance of modernity, reminding us that progress without purpose is motion without meaning. October 7 is not a date of chance, it is a moment of design. The hand that sculpted stars and set the oceans in motion has touched this day and filled it with significance. Whether that significance reveals itself in the affairs of nations or in the quiet turn of a single heart does not matter. For in divine arithmetic, one awakened soul outweighs 1,000 distracted ones. The history of the world is shaped not by the multitude, but by the moment. A single word spoken at the right time, a single act of courage, a single day of revelation. These are what shift the course of humanity. And yet, such moments are invisible until after they pass. Only later do men look back and say, "That was the day when everything changed." But heaven already knew. Heaven had written it long before. The challenge, then, is not to predict such moments, but to live in such awareness that when they come, we are ready to move with them. Readiness is the mark of wisdom. It is not the anxious striving to foresee every event, but the quiet posture of surrender that says, "When the moment comes, I will hear, I will see, I will obey." This posture transforms an ordinary life into a vessel of eternal purpose. It is the difference between the one who merely survives time and the one who redeems it. For divine timing is not about convenience, it is about alignment. It calls us to step out of the noise of the world and into the rhythm of the eternal. The soul that aligns itself with divine timing finds peace even in turbulence, because it knows that every shaking, every delay, every surprise is part of a larger design. Such a person becomes like a tree planted by streams of living water, unshaken by drought, unafraid of storm, because he draws life not from circumstance, but from the source of time itself. In contrast, those who build their security on the scaffolding of human planning find that when the winds of divine purpose blow, their structures tremble. The economy they trusted falters, the systems they praised fail, and the control they worshipped vanishes. This is not cruelty but mercy, for when the scaffolds fall, the soul can finally see the sky. When illusions crumble, truth becomes visible. October 7 may be such a day when illusions tremble and truth pierces through the fog. Some will call it disruption, others will recognize it as awakening. The difference lies not in what happens, but in how one perceives it. To the fearful, divine movement feels like loss. To the faithful, it feels like liberation. There is a deep comfort in knowing that divine timing is never late. Even when it interrupts our plans, it fulfills its own. The Eternal does not consult our calendars before moving. He acts in wisdom beyond our understanding, and yet, when we look back, we see that his timing was perfect. What we thought were delays were protections. What we thought were endings were beginnings. And what we thought were coincidences were alignments of infinite precision. The soul that learns to trust this timing lives free from anxiety. It no longer fights against the clock but flows with it, knowing that every day, especially those that seem ordinary, may be pregnant with unseen purpose. A great day, divinely chosen, is not defined by its events but by its revelations. It is when the unseen becomes visible, when hearts awaken, when destiny steps forward from behind the curtain. The wise do not wait for signs in the sky or shouts from the crowd. They sense the shift within. They feel the holy stillness that precedes change. They hear the quiet invitation in the heart that says, "Be still and know." That stillness is not passivity, it is awareness. It is readiness to act when the whisper becomes a command. And when that moment comes, the humble act of obedience becomes the hinge upon which eternity turns. Consider how all great movements began, with a single day, a single decision, a single heart that listened. The course of nations has been altered not by armies, but by those who understood the weight of divine timing. The difference between history and destiny often lies in the willingness to pause, to listen, and to move when heaven says, "Now." For divine timing, though invisible, is irresistible. It will accomplish what it intends, whether through the cooperation of man or despite it. But to cooperate, to move in harmony with it, is the highest privilege of the soul. It is to dance with eternity in the narrow space of time. There are many who live their whole lives in pursuit of the extraordinary, yet never find it, because they overlook the sacred hidden within the ordinary. They rush from one plan to another, seeking meaning in movement. But the truly awakened understand that divine moments often arrive disguised as simple days. A Tuesday morning, a quiet sunrise, a conversation, a choice. All may be the very intersection where eternity touches time. The wise do not demand spectacle. They seek significance. They know that one obedient act, one surrendered heart, can echo through generations. So when a day such as October 7 arrives, carrying the quiet gravity of purpose, the soul that has trained itself in listening will not miss it. It will feel the alignment, the stirring, the invitation, and it will respond, not with fear or confusion, but with gratitude. For to live in step with divine timing is to live beyond regret. It is to know that whatever happens, you were where you were meant to be, doing what you were meant to do, at the hour appointed by eternity. And in that alignment, life ceases to be random. Every joy, every sorrow, every silence becomes part of a sacred rhythm that leads the soul home. When the ordinary disguises the extraordinary, it is the humble heart that sees what the wise overlook and the listening soul that inherits what the world ignores. The extraordinary seldom arrives in the form men expect. It does not stride into the room, clothed in thunder or crowned with spectacle. It comes softly, hidden in the folds of the familiar, like a secret melody playing beneath the noise of daily life. The eyes that are trained only to see grandeur miss it entirely. The mind that searches for signs in the clouds will never notice the whisper that passes close enough to touch the soul. For the eternal hides his greatest treasures in plain sight. Inside the rhythm of ordinary days, within the moments that most dismiss as trivial. The irony of creation is that the smallest things often carry the greatest weight, and those who are too hurried, too proud, or too certain will step right over miracles without ever knowing they were there. The world measures greatness by height and noise, by spectacle and acclaim. But heaven's measure is quieter. It listens not for applause but for attention. It is not the mighty, but the meek who perceive the sacred in simplicity. The humble heart is like a window kept clean, not large, not ornate, but clear enough for light to pass through. The proud heart, clouded by self-importance and cluttered with noise, cannot see beyond its own reflection. When the ordinary comes bearing the extraordinary, the proud see nothing but routine. Yet the humble perceive meaning in every breath, every encounter, every dawn. For them, the world is not a machine but a message, not a habit but a hymn. They see eternity peering through the fabric of time. It is not that the extraordinary hides itself. It is that humanity has forgotten how to see. The child sees it easily. The wonder in a drop of rain, the mystery in the wind, the glory in a simple flame. But as men grow clever, they trade wonder for understanding, and in their hunger to explain, they cease to behold. Knowledge expands while sight diminishes. They become too educated to marvel, too efficient to pause, too proud to bow. And so the miracles go unseen, not because they are rare, but because the eyes of the soul have grown dim. The eternal speaks not in riddles but in rhythms, and only those who listen in stillness can discern the voice beneath the noise. The world's wisdom shouts, heaven's truth whispers. The loudest minds miss it, but the quiet heart catches it in the stillness between breaths. That is why humility is not merely a virtue, it is a vision. It allows one to see what cannot be bought or taught, what must be felt. The humble do not seek control, they seek connection. They do not demand signs, they discern meaning. And so, while the powerful chase omens and the intellectuals debate probabilities, the humble kneel before the ordinary and find the extraordinary waiting for them there. It is as if the eternal delights in reversing the expectations of men, choosing the small to shame the mighty, the unnoticed to confound the celebrated. The divine does not need the stage to be grand, he needs the heart to be open. Consider the moments in history that changed the world. Most began quietly, in obscurity. Great revelations were born in silence, great movements in hidden corners, great awakenings in simple hearts. The turning points of eternity seldom arrive with fanfare. They arrive disguised as interruptions, inconveniences, or small choices. The great mistake of modern man is that he seeks the extraordinary outside himself, through spectacle, wealth, or acclaim, when in truth it passes before him daily, asking only that he see the sunrise, the stranger's kindness, the quiet conviction of the conscience. Each of these is an invitation into the mystery. But the world has trained its gaze upward and outward, while the divine speaks inward. The listening soul is one that has learned the discipline of stillness. In a generation addicted to motion, stillness has become rebellion. To pause, to listen, to wait. These are acts of faith now, for they defy the tyranny of distraction. But only in stillness does the soul regain its hearing. The Eternal does not compete with noise. He will not shout over the din of the world. He waits until the noise collapses under its own emptiness. Then, to the one who remains, the whisper comes. A sound softer than words, but stronger than thunder. The listening soul hears it and knows that it has touched something not of this world. It is this kind of soul that inherits what others miss. Not wealth, not power, but wisdom. The quiet knowing that the world is alive with purpose, that nothing is random, that the ordinary is sacred. To inherit what the world ignores is both a blessing and a burden. The one who sees the extraordinary in the ordinary cannot live as others do. They walk through the same streets, hear the same voices, and yet perceive a different world. They sense the invisible weight of moments, the holiness in small acts, the presence that fills even silence. While others hurry through their days, they move with reverence, for they know they are walking through a creation that is still speaking. This awareness changes everything. It transforms routine into ritual, chores into worship, and every breath into gratitude. The wise overlook the simple because they believe the simple has nothing left to teach them. But wisdom itself is not a mountain to be climbed. It is a well to be drawn from. The deeper one goes, the more one realizes how infinite it is. The humble drink from it daily, not to master it, but to be mastered by it. The proud, believing they already know, never draw near. And so, while the world rushes past in pursuit of the next revelation, the humble find revelation in what the world has left behind. There is a sacred irony in the way the Eternal works. He hides majesty in weakness, power in gentleness, glory in suffering. The world calls it foolishness because it does not fit within the geometry of pride. But to those whose eyes have been opened, it is beauty beyond description. It means that nothing is wasted, that the very things others discard may be the vessels of grace. A stone on the path, a word spoken in passing, a moment of quiet reflection. Each can hold eternity folded within it. The listening soul lives in this awareness, and therefore walks differently. They no longer divide life into sacred and secular, important and unimportant. For them, all of it is woven together by unseen hands. And this awareness changes how they treat others. When one sees the extraordinary within the ordinary, one begins to see the divine image in every human face. No one is common, no moment is meaningless. Every interaction carries weight, every soul carries wonder. The humble heart, therefore, does not despise the small or the weak, for it knows that heaven often hides its treasures in such places. The listening soul does not rush to judge, for it understands that what appears ordinary today may be revealed tomorrow as extraordinary beyond measure. When the world ignores something, it is often because it does not know its worth. But heaven measures worth differently. The widow's coin, the child's prayer, the quiet act of forgiveness. These are the treasures the world overlooks and heaven celebrates. The one who listens learns to live accordingly, choosing depth over noise, meaning over motion, grace over recognition. Such a person may seem out of step with the times, but in truth, they are walking in rhythm with eternity. They are the ones who keep the flame alive when the world forgets the fire. To see the extraordinary in the ordinary requires courage. the courage to resist the world's blindness, to trust what cannot be seen, to value what cannot be measured. It means believing that behind every sunset there is a storyteller, behind every silence a voice, behind every heartbeat a calling. It is not an easy way to live, but it is the truest way. For it rescues life from emptiness and restores it to wonder. The one who lives this way no longer asks for proof, because they are surrounded by it. Every breath becomes testimony, and perhaps that is the final mystery. That heaven's greatest works are hidden not from us, but for us. They are scattered throughout the hours of our lives like pearls in the sand, waiting for those who are willing to kneel, to look closely, to listen deeply. The humble heart kneels, the listening soul bends its ear, and in that posture of quiet reverence, they discover what the world, in its noise and haste, has missed entirely. For in every ordinary moment lies the echo of the extraordinary, calling softly to be found, and only those who listen will ever truly hear it.